We will now start this panel with an opening address from probably the most charismatic and visionary European political leader, now turned philanthropist, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. Mr. Blair, the floor is yours.
Thanks. Thank you very much indeed, Victor, and thank you for describing me as a European. And thank you, which is for Britain. That's good. We're getting somewhere. Now I'm going to speak because I am actually. I speak first of all humility. I am the warm-up act for the maestro President Clinton, who's going to speak to you after me, and then actually you'll want to hear from all these guys here. And actually, really, what I've got to say to you is can be simply encapsulated. You know, the 1-minute video was a little, let's say, downbeat. The atmosphere around Davos is a little bit depressed, and that's something, being an envoy out in the Middle East peace process, I'm not used to. So there's a process of adjustment that's going on here. But anyway, I actually don't believe that philanthrocapitalism is in philanthrocrisis. I think, of course, philanthropy is going to be hit like everything else is hit by the impact of the financial crisis. But actually, I think it is at this very moment when it's important that we reassert why it's important, why it's got something to contribute, why there is a distinctive third sector that philanthropy represents, that it's important to nurture and to maintain. And someone was pointing out to me this morning that actually 1933 was one of the largest years of giving in the United States of America. And in fact, in the United Kingdom, the region that gives most per head is in fact Northern Ireland, even though per capita income is amongst the poorest. So it doesn't necessarily mean that because we've got an economic challenge, we have to give up on the social philanthropy that has done so much to further so many causes in recent years. I've got experience of philanthropy both in government, where we started to use, for example, in our school system, private individuals, the private sector, social entrepreneurs, to come in and help provide a better school system. I've got experience of it now in the work that I do, both in my faith foundation, the work I do in Africa, in climate change, and so on. And I would say there are these elements that make it absolutely essential that this sector maintains its strong position and indeed improves and increases it even throughout the financial crisis that we have. The first, as you can see from the panelists that you've got today, all of whom I know are still heavily engaged in philanthropy today, is that philanthropy offers creative and innovative solutions. Any of us who've been in government know that the characteristic that springs most to mind when analysing government is not fleet of purpose or fleet of foot, right? The thing that the philanthropic sector can often do is provide really creative and innovative ideas to problems. For example, if you take what Muhammad Yunus does in microfinance, absolutely revolutionary, extraordinarily important. Now, the second thing that philanthropy can contribute is this. It is genuine social enterprise. Right? There is a new type. It's not just a form of charitable giving. It's actually a new type of enterprise. And the most important thing that the best philanthropists can bring is when they go into philanthropy, if they've been successful in business, people like Victor or Richard or Bill or Mohammed, anybody who's here who's been successful in business as a major philanthropist, the most important thing is that they don't leave their business brain behind when they come into the philanthropic sector. You know, because actually it is in the combination of strong business attitudes around delivery, around management systems, around product, when allied to great social causes, that produce the best results. The third thing is the philanthropic sector today is actually, it's not separate from society, it's a vital part of society. Any of us who have been in government know that society today works as a collective organism, and it works, however, not just through the traditional forms of the state. So in any form of modern government, you will find combinations of public and private sector, and what we call sometimes the third sector, or the philanthropic sector, the voluntary sector, the social enterprise sector, is an important partner in society. It's not a substitute for what government should do, and it should never be used to substitute for what government should do, but it is a vital component of a proper functioning society. So it's not something that people do just when times are good and when corporate profits are high. It's something that is part of the very nature of a well-functioning, modern, developed society. The fourth thing is this, that I think it is in the philanthropic work that very often issues that otherwise wouldn't be addressed because government, both national and international, moves too slowly, that the philanthropic sector can address. For example, in the foundation that I had when President Clinton kindly came along and said some words for my foundation in New York, this is about different religious faiths coming together and working together, both to have better understanding of each other and to try and solve some of the problems of the world. And if we look around the difficulties and challenges that we have, not least out in the Middle East, there's often a strong religious component. Now, there is no particular international bureaucracy that will deal with this, but what the philanthropic sector can do is to step in to that vacuum, and it can achieve something and do it in a way and fill a space that otherwise would be left void. So that is the other thing that the philanthropic sector can do. It can't just move quickly, it can sometimes move into areas where otherwise there would be a gap, because government, national or international, is not good enough to do it. And the final thing is this, that the chief characteristic of today's world is its interdependence. It's a point that President Clinton has often made. It can be demonstrated by the financial crisis, it can be demonstrated by the security challenges we face, it can be demonstrated by climate change. Any of the issues we face today illustrate the interconnected nature of the world in which we live. Philanthropy, as can be seen by the gentleman here, can stretch across national boundaries and can do it with far greater vitality and strength of purpose than, again, often traditional institutions and bureaucracies of government can do. So, for all of those reasons, I think philanthropy and philanthrocapitalism, yes, of course, will be affected by the current financial crisis, but its raison d'etre remains, it is as strong as ever, and it is in part our job to make sure that even through these difficult times, it does answer the needs that people have, it does respond to the challenges, and it provides some of the answers. So I don't doubt at all that we will be subject, of course, to immense pressures. Anybody who's raising money for foundations knows that it can be more difficult in the present situation. But philanthropy is here to stay, and it's here to stay because people understand that a society, whether national or global today, has to be made up of more than state actors or individuals acting on their own. And it is philanthropy as a form of social enterprise that fills that gap. That's why it's important. That's why it will continue. That's why whatever the difficulties we have, and whatever the slightly more somber and austere, well, not exactly last night, somber or sober, but the more austere mood that there is around Davos this year, that's why, although this mood is here with us now, it should not dim our natural optimism, and it should certainly not diminish our desire to use philanthropy as an instrument of developing the potential of people, of answering the problems of the world, and creating a platform for humanity to make progress. Thank you.